Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy.
And I'm Ben Deckert.
And welcome to Movie Reel, where we're continuing our Star Wars month, and we're finishing it off with Revenge of the Sith. Because what do we do on this podcast, Kevin?
We talk about movies, why we like them, why you should like them, and dissect them in the weirdest way possible.
And I'm so excited for today. Like I've been waiting to talk. Well, I've been waiting to talk about the prequels since last Star Wars month.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And Revenge of the Sith, this is definitely the best of this trilogy. Like, hands down, it is not even a debate. You might, if there's a person out there that prefers Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones, okay, whatever. But yeah, this one is that's the best one.
Yeah, that's your prerogative. But yeah, this is probably like unanimously like across the entire like Star Wars fandom, like the best of the prequels.
This might be my favorite Star Wars movie. I think when I was watching everything,
I can see why.
Everything prior to Rise of Skywalker, and I was like, let's be real, I think this is your favorite one. I was trying to it's not, because it's a prequel, but it's like, no, I love it. Like, I love
Search
it so
your
much.
feelings, you know it to be true.
But I also gotta say, this movie is also just insanely important. All these movies in a way are incredibly important and not saying that obviously the originals aren't, but like, this is what ties it to that. All of these movies are why the next steps are going to happen. And I actually found this audience review on IMDb that I want to read it, because it's a long one, so I'm only going to read part of it, but it kind of caught my eye. So this is on IMDb. You can find it on IMDb. And it said, May 19th, 2005 was not a simple day for fans and fans of the Star Wars. It was a day when all pieces of history fell into place, finally opening a riddle that lasted more than 28 years. People imagined and thought out, wrote books and stories, collected facts, and made legends and everything for the sake of one saga, which will forever remain in the hearts of its admirers. Probably almost every person leaving that hall could not convey or describe in words what happened during those several hours in the cinema. Joyful, sad, tearful, shocked faces slowly headed for the exit, promising to come back and see this episode again. This is the chapter of history, truly the most intense and the most powerful. It penetrates into the lungs, not allowing to breathe, touching hearts and souls. We are just spectators, but we can experience. And at some point, there is only a doomed sigh, realizing there is no way out. Holy crap, right?
Powerful stuff. Holy shit.
I mean, this is an insanely... I think that's kind of when I was reading it. I'm like, I didn't think about how... this is the best of this trilogy, but this is an incredibly important film, and especially for fans, because this is why... You said this before. We did not need the sequels, but we needed the prequels, because we needed to understand why Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, turned to the dark side.
Yeah, it's a very crucial piece of evidence that we kind of got like minor glimpses of through like some like the novelizations and other stories, like kind of like what that review you were reading said of, all these little bits and pieces were strewn together. There were comics, there were books, everything was kind of collected to try and create the narrative that was kind of hidden in the background. But with these movies' existence, it's no longer speculation. It's fact on how the progression of all the events leading up in Star Wars created the Empire and created the original trilogy and made like the most profitable movie franchise in the world. And it's kind of amazing at the time. Yes.
Yeah.
MCU is currently ranking supreme on that one, but
it was Harry Potter, I think, and then
movies.
Yeah, it was Harry Potter, I think, and I remember Daniel Radcliffe saying, "I'm sure there's going to be some movie that comes out in 10 years that breaks all the records," and the next year, Avengers came out. So I'm like,
yep,
I didn't have to wait that long for that. Ben, you kind of had, obviously you and Kevin both grew up with these, and where do you
Yeah.
kind of stand on this movie and like its importance, and as well as like your nostalgia for it?
This one specifically is kind of like a required
Yes.
movie for the series,
Yes.
sort of.
That's a good way to
So
that's a good way to put it.
it's like the series wouldn't fit correctly if you just had 1, 2, and then 4, 5, and 6.
No. No.
Yeah.
Which just on the numbering alone, but also
Yeah.
this is like some of the most
Yes.
crucial story pieces and everything.
This is probably like one of the more like brutal sides that we see of Star Wars. It's a lot more, I want to say, visceral and a lot more.
This was the first Star Wars movie with a PG-13 rating.
Yeah, that's true. Which is
Are the
kind of
sequels
surprising.
PG-13?
All of them.
Okay.
Or out of the first 6.
Yeah.
But that's because PG-13 didn't exist.
Yes,
when
right,
the first 3
right.
came out.
Yeah. Thanks, Steven Spielberg.
This movie is definitely way more edgy than I think any other Star Wars film is, because I mean, like, Return of the Jedi, you kind of like, I was watching before this. I've talked about it several times, that Dave Filoni analysis of the prequels and the originals as a whole, and um, how he was saying how Return of the Jedi, Luke turning to the dark side is on the table, and he even as a kid understood like that could happen. And I think obviously for me, watching him as an adult, I never for a second. I mean, I knew he was not going to turn to the dark side, but I think
and there was actually like a really like subtle nod to that just on his wardrobe alone in that movie, because he's wearing entirely like a black robe, and then when he's like confirmed to like not join the dark side, there's like a flap on his suit that shows that it's like white on the inside. That shows that he was never intending to join the dark side at all, which is like a really subtle clue for the audience, but it's like something that I never really picked up on until I actually like learned about that.
Yeah. But here it's like, we know this is going to end with Anakin becoming Darth Vader. And prior to watching Revenge of the Sith, I went back and actually watched the very end of Attack of the Clones, because I really love the ending of, the clones like marching onto their like ships, and then the wedding happening, and even the wedding, the music itself, the swell of it is very intense. Like, this beautiful moment, and these people are getting married, but there is kind of this sense of like something's about to happen. Like, like there's even that moment of like Palpatine and the senators watching the clones about to like take off. Like, there's kind of just I was kind of thinking like, no one other than Palpatine, no one realizes like everything has changed. Nothing will ever be how it was like a day ago. And it's just kind of mind blowing to think like to backtrack and to realize like
it just progressed so quickly in that movie. Like that entire movie is like probably like the span of like less than a week, and it just went from a failed assassination attempt to full blown civil war, and it just happened so fast.
That
it's like, oh my god.
What is the timeline for Revenge of the Sith? From beginning of Revenge of the Sith to like the end, I guess.
So basically,
at least a couple of weeks, right?
Okay, so minor spoilers for Clone Wars, which I think you finished now.
Yeah, no, I finished. Yeah,
it's the length of the siege of
okay,
Mandalore.
no, I know that. I mean,
but yeah, so it was. I think that was only like a day or two, or a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a couple day to night sequences in Revenge of the Sith. So, because I remember there's like a couple scenes where like Anakin and Padme is like, "Oh, I'm in love with you." It's like, "Oh, I'm so in love with you," and like that whole classic
We have to
dialogue.
wake up.
And
We're going to talk about that scene for a long time. I have so many things to talk about. Okay, continue.
oh goody. And then there's like the scene where like, you know, Palpatine, like he wakes, or like when Anakin like wakes up from a nightmare, and then there's like another night sequence where like the confrontation between like Mace Windu and Palpatine, and that whole very pivotal moment. And then yeah, there's just been several day to night sequences, and then I think after after Order 66, he like just chills on Mustafar for, I think like Padme says, like 3 days.
Okay. Yes.
So like a week roughly.
It's a minimum. I guess if that's 3 days on Mustafar, it's a minimum of 3 days because there's 3 or 4 nights.
Okay.
Shown in the movie.
We'll get into why I'm so curious about this timeline, which I feel like it is very obvious why I'm so curious about this timeline. But let's kind of jump into it. So Obi-Wan and Anakin are, going to rescue Palpatine. And does Hayden Christensen's voice sound weird in that scene? He's something about the way he's talking sounds really weird, and it doesn't happen any other time in the movie. It's just in the scene where he's like piloting the his ship. It's like whatever.
I mean I'm not really remembering.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Any different?
It just sounded like he was.
It's probably just due to how it had to be the audio had to be recorded.
Oh, okay, because it just sounded like
maybe
it sounded like almost like he's holding back an accent, and he has like a little bit of he's Canadian. He has a little bit of a Canadian accent, but it just sounded bizarre to me. Okay. And I was like, I've never noticed this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember like his accent like particularly like
no
through.
It's just this one because he sounds pretty much American the entire time. It was just this one. I didn't even know he was Canadian until I was watching like those kind of behind the scenes interviews of when him and Ewan McGregor were practicing for their fight later, and the way he was talking, I'm like. What is this accent? And then I realized, oh, it's Canadian. It wasn't like a cliche. It's very subtle. It wasn't like a hardcore, like deep north.
Yeah, it's always weird to hear him like just talking like interviews and stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of the similar reaction I had with the actor who plays Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. He's just like, like a very American very American guy.
Yeah.
And he's got a British accent, and same with like the governor from that same show. He's also a British actor, and he's playing like, he's talking with like a slight southern twang to his voice. It's like, damn, I had no idea.
Have you ever heard? I remember I've heard accents where it's like, where like British or like Jamie Dornan's like Irish, and I remember hearing like it sounded like his accent was trying so hard to come out. Like English is a way harder accent and language than people realize, and I just find that funny how like whenever I'm like it sounds I'm like I hear the accent like it's very subtle and it's very like it's trying to get out but they're not letting it, and it's just this one scene that he just sounds slightly different than he did in the rest of the movie. It's not a big deal. I was just curious if you guys saw it, but I actually have another question. No. So Anakin, prior to being a Jedi, obviously he knew how to fly and kind of knows he's a pilot. He's a pretty good pilot.
Well, according to Al Guinness, he was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
Obi-Wan, so as a Jedi, was he
and a good friend?
Yes, and a cunning warrior.
Obi-Wan taught, because Obi-Wan doesn't really like flying. So was it, or he doesn't like piloting? So
he doesn't like Anakin's flying.
Oh, because it sounds like he. Because it's just like, was he just as a Jedi just kind of taught like, you need to know how to, fly your own, like, jet or whatever? Like, is that like a Jedi training thing or?
Are you basically asking if the Jedi have their own DMV? Because that's kind of what it feels like. I realize that
it does sound like like sort of, but sort of like like is he as Jedi are you taught how to fly?
It's like, all right, younglings, today we're going to learn how to parallel park. I mean, they kind of just go through like a rigorous training
everything.
on like a very kind of just like a wide variety of
Well,
topics, but it kind of just depends on like who your master is and their area of expertise. Like there's like a couple masters like, oh, like this guy is like an expert on like the criminal underground on Coruscant, and he just kind of like busts drug rings and all that. He's basically our narco cop. Um Jedi, and then we got like this guy who's like primarily focuses on like lightsaber combat. So that's pretty much what you're going to be doing if you train under him, and et cetera, et cetera. So I guess it just kind of depends who your master is and also what your personal preference on what you
Okay.
want to do. And Anakin just really liked flying ever since he was like a slave and doing pod racing. He was just something that he was just naturally good at and it was drawn to.
well, it's the Jedi also had, most of them had start their own starfighters,
Yes,
because they had
the Jedi starfighters.
the Delta. Yeah, well, it's the Delta 7 is what they used in Attack of the Clones, and those had been in service with the Jedi for
Yeah,
years
and then
before
didn't
then, because there
yeah
wasn't a war going on. So those were just what they used as their transports
yeah with
and
the
stuff like that.
hyperspace ring on them. Yeah, and
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they get like repurposed into the Tie Fighters because they had the same kind of like paneled wing flaps that had the same kind of panel design as Tie Fighters, and they had the same cockpit
these
window. Like, did they use like the same kind of?
that those were those were the Eta 2s that they used in Revenge of the Sith. Those were a
Okay,
newer
yeah, because
design.
like I remember seeing that as like, isn't that like the precursor for like the like Tie Fighter design? Because it's like,
That's what they
yeah,
were going for. Was it looked like a TIE fighter? That's, if you walk through a lot of the prequels and specifically Clone Wars, the Republic's design and everything starts trending more and more towards
yeah,
the
which is
Empire.
very evident with the Phase Two clone armor because they get like the two.
Yeah,
Um,
they get the little
yeah,
nose at the
I almost
bottom.
said like the cleft helmet. Yeah,
Whatever, yeah.
it's just kind of weird how subtly it changes, and it's like before you even realize that it does, it just snap of a finger. It's like, well, we're an empire now. It's like, and everyone's cool with this. Okay, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Cool.
um,
Yeah, I know. I was just curious. So I kind of just I love this scene because Anakin and Obi-Wan are just complete opposites, and I think this movie does a really. It's just so interesting how their relationship, Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship, changed so much in the span of like 13 years because, um, Obi-Wan had really no opinion of Anakin in the first one. He kind of just, like to quote Dave Filoni, he just kind of thought he was like, what's the point of him? Like, we don't need him. We have other stuff to do. He wasn't looking at the big picture. And then in the second one, it is like a father-son relationship, and they're arguing all the time, and there's clearly it's because Obi-Wan doesn't fully trust Anakin, not the same way like Mace Windu, but just kind of like a father to a teenage son in a sense, is very much their relationship. And here they are truly brothers. Like Obi-Wan loves Anakin so much and has so much respect for him and so much like trust in him. Like he can't imagine he cannot does not foresee all the things that like Yoda definitely is picking
yeah,
up on.
you'll never betray me, right, Anakin?
But
Yeah.
but also like they also just bicker like brother, like it's so funny. Like, and I just think it's so Obi-Wan just like loves him so much, and it's so evident in this movie, and up way before like he says to Anakin like, you were my brother, I loved you. I love just like when they crash land onto the separatist like fleet because they're trying to go rescue Palpatine, and when they're stuck in the elevator and R2 is trying to like get the elevator moving, and he's like, and he's like, what's going on? Oh,
Oh yeah.
R2. And he's like, don't judge R2. What? No, they're just it's so funny. Like, I actually went back. He's like, I
Yeah, it's
didn't
like
say
R2's
anything.
trying.
Like, they're just, it's so funny and it's so sweet. And then obviously Anakin reciprocates as any normal Jedi, any normal person would, of him carrying him on his back. And Have you guys?
Yeah.
Actually, no. I can't ask if you've seen it. Of course, you've seen it. I watch it maybe once a week. Maybe not once a week. I watch it all the time. The person a couple years ago that took scenes from the prequels and overlaid the Drake and Josh theme. I know you've seen it. Like, I was about to ask,
sent that to me
what a dumb
multiple
question.
times.
We were both, I think, both watched it when it went viral, and I watched it all the time because it's so funny and it's so well done. So hats off to the person that did it. But it's like true; they are 100% brothers by this stage in the franchise, and then it all unfortunately does not stay.
Yeah, it fractures like pretty hard. There was actually like a really fun thing that I'm not sure if you picked up on this, Sam, is during the Clone Wars TV show, there are several moments in the show where Grievous and Anakin don't actually meet face to face, and in this movie, first of all, this movie was like his like first like big screen appearance. He had shown up prior to this in like the 2003 Clone Wars TV show, which is currently on Disney Plus now.
What?
In the Vintage Collection, which no longer canon, and it's such a bummer because that it was such a downgrade for. I'm gonna say it was a downgrade for Grievous. Yeah,
such a downgrade for Grievous.
If you've seen the 2003 Star Wars Clone Wars and remember the first appearance of Grievous, you remember thinking, "Holy shit, this guy's a."
He was actually terrifying. He wasn't just a droid with asthma.
Yeah, he wasn't Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget with a lightsaber. He was terrifying. I remember him fighting like 5 Jedi at once, and he didn't even pull out a lightsaber, and he already killed
Grievous
3 of them already.
Is like, such a major character.
Yeah,
in the Clone Wars that I kind of like almost I'm like, oh yeah, he's not in Attack of the Clones. And when he said like Anakin, like Skywalker, you're this like whatever, and I'm like, wait, they've never met. Even Ahsoka met him. Even Ahsoka.
Yeah, fought. in the Clone Wars, they had to keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many scenes in Clone Wars where like they just
or they're fighting each other like Starfighter to Starfighter, like but they never meet face to face. And Dave Filoni, for the sake of keeping that one line of dialogue to make sense, purposely made it so that they never meet, and it was such a meticulous and stressful process because there's so many missions where they're bound to meet.
I mean,
they
hats
never
off to
actually
Dave
officially
Filoni
meet face to face. And there's a lot of nods. Yeah. And there's.
Oh, really?
And a lot of that comes from just it
okay.
painted Grievous as he'd rather run from a fight than fight it to the end. Happened a lot. Because so it's like he just run from a Ahsoka or whatever.
There was actually a really funny line of dialogue when in the movie when like they like actually meet, and it's like, I was expecting someone of your reputation be a much older, and then Anakin, who's really only gotten a description of Grievous from Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and he's like remembering what Ahsoka's told him after meeting Grievous multiple times, like, you're shorter than I expected, because whenever Ahsoka would meet him, she is a lot shorter than Grievous. So Anakin's probably expecting Grievous to be like a giant cyborg. It's like, oh, no, I thought bigger. You're not that tall. And I think that's just such a fun kind of unintentional Easter egg based off of what we know from Clone Wars. And there's a couple moments like that in the show and in the movie, like when Grievous first meets Obi-Wan, the first thing he says to him, he jumps off of a platform right in front of him and says, "Hello there." And then Obi-Wan does the exact same thing in this movie.
They've never met. Like, I was like, that kind of blew my mind. But it doesn't surprise me that Dave Filoni set it up specifically to make sure that line makes sense. But also, apparently, so the Grievous has this cough, and apparently, it's George Lucas's cough, I think. But why would they? Okay, I get like, oh, it's George Lucas's cough, but why would they design? He's not a droid. He's a
He's a
cyborg, but he has like, and we find out later, he has like a heart, and like, what was the point? I was just like, why would they be made to have a cough?
Okay, so in the old 2003 Clone Wars, he was, a cyborg for various purposes that I'm not even sure are canon anymore, so I'm not going to get into it. But the reason why he has a cough,
because they're in Clone Wars.
Okay, but the reason why he has a cough in that, because when he's first introduced, he's just an unstoppable killing machine. He doesn't have a cough. He doesn't have like a crazy like hunch or anything like that. The reason why he has a cough is when he kidnaps the Chancellor. Mace Windu intervenes at like the last second to try and stop him, and he uses the Force to crush his torso, and it like compresses all of like the metallic parts around what's remaining of his organs, and that starts his like insane coughing fit from then on. But in new canon, it's just
it was always a thing.
I guess like it was just always a thing.
There's scenes in Clone Wars that would have been prior to that scene, that would have been before that scene in the 2003 show that he has the cough.
Yeah, I think it was just always kind of like a present
it's
thing
because Clone Wars was a kid
surgery.
show and it was funny.
Yeah.
So when we got to, so obviously we got to talk about a very important fight scene that happens right in the beginning. Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, and Palpatine's just sitting.
Wait, I thought we were talking about like the real fight in the beginning of the movie, R2 versus the Buzz droids to avenge his fallen friend R4.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
The classic battle between good and evil to fight for the honor of your fallen brethren.
Take it away.
No, that was pretty much it. Moving on.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I just find it funny. I was watching and I was like, R2 is savage. And I love it, but I realized the only other droid that I think in Star Wars, that I've seen at least, that I think is maybe more savage is Chopper.
Chopper, yes.
Like, literally...
Yep. I knew you
Chopper
were
may
say
be the only droid with a higher kill count than
but
R2.
not even the...
Which is saying something, because R2 just jettisoned an entire Star Destroyer into space through an airlock once.
But it's not even the kill count. It's the fact that I remember it was like when they used another droid, they reprogrammed another droid, and they're like, oh, let's just keep him, we'll have another droid. And Chopper pushes him overboard.
Pushes him out the airlock.
And he's just like, ah ha ha. And it's like, what the hell, Chopper? Like, I mean, R2 wouldn't even go that far. He wouldn't just like...
I mean, R2 did the same thing to the, I don't remember, I think it was R7.
Yeah,
that was
Goldie.
No, I thought that was
Goldie.
R3.
No, it would have been a newer
model.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure they said R3.
So it would have had to have been an R7.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, that one had it coming because it was a separatist traitor.
God, Goldie was an a-hole.
Yeah. Oh, and fun fact, Chopper was actually voiced by Dave Filoni.
That's cool.
Spoilers if you haven't finished.
I mean, that's not really a spoiler. You just haven't met Chopper.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait. No, wait.
And also,
Chopper is Rebels.
Yeah, and also, Dave Filoni voiced the bounty hunter Embo, and the weird thing about his language, he created a language. It's just him reading. Like one of his like animators came in with like his son, and like I guess they're like French or something. So he came in with like this like French book of the Smurfs. And Dave Filoni was like kind of like chilling with the kid and was like trying to like cheer him up and make him laugh. So he's just reading the Smurfs in French just horribly because he doesn't speak French. So he's just making it up. And that's the basis for Embo's language. It's just Dave Filoni reading the Smurfs French in a very comical manner. That's Embo's language and voice.
That's great.
Yep. Little fun fact for you. So anyway, Dooku and shows up. And that whole fight happens. Take it away, Sam.
Obi-Wan gets hurt like immediately and just out cold. And Palpatine's just sitting there. He's just like handcuffed. It seems okay. This pissed me off. So they kidnap the Chancellor, and obviously we know Palpatine. It's kind of like the Disney Channel original movie, Phantom of the Megaplex, where the manager keeps getting kidnapped, and then we find out he's the bad guy. which meant he kidnapped himself. So
spoiler.
Basically, we know that Palpatine orchestrated all of this so Anakin would kill Dooku and blah blah blah. But they are just floating above Coruscant, and so it's like from the pretend for a second that Palpatine isn't Sidious. This is a really stupid plan on the Separatist part, just to be like, oh, we'll just hang out here and give the Jedi a chance to rescue him.
Well, I think
they were stuck in the battle with the entire Republic Navy.
Yeah, they physically couldn't leave because if they jumped into hyperspace, they basically would have.
They had no exit route.
Yeah, they had no. They basically were getting like
a blind jump.
Yeah, they were constantly getting blunked by Republic cruisers. There was no way that they could actually safely leave with their hostage intact or themselves intact, because that ship carried 2 exclusively high value VIPs for the Separatists that basically led the entire army, plus the leader of the Galactic Senate. So it's like, okay, we got like
that was a bad call on the Separatist part.
Yeah, if that
both their leaders on one ship.
Yeah, if that ship like accidentally like blew up, like if a Republic cruiser just like shot the reactor and blew the whole thing up, there would be no civil war. There would be no empire. The war would essentially, in a very effect, be over. And I was like, that is kind of crazy to think about, that they literally put all their eggs in one basket. And I never understood why they did that. Because like Dooku,
that was their flagship of their fleet.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's like it wasn't even as big as the Malevolence. Like, what the hell, man?
Well,
but
timelines and stuff.
Yeah, but it was just, but honestly, I felt like Dooku was like, I know we said this before, but Christopher Lee was wasted on these movies. He had nothing. He was in the movies for like a collective like 30 minutes between both movies.
Yeah, he was in this movie for 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
But
I was kind of
bummed. He was filming
oh
Two
my
Towers
God
at this time.
Yeah, we will forgive you for that.
So all of his films for this movie were filmed in a green screen in Australia.
I can believe that.
Anakin and Obi-Wan are Anakin and Dooku are fighting, and he basically has Dooku. He cuts off both of his hands, just puts both blades like to his neck, and Palpatine is just like, good Anakin, very good, kill him. And it's just like, why? I mean, again, aside from the fact that he is Sidious, wouldn't he be like, that's weird? Why would, I mean, I get that that Palpatine probably doesn't really care for this guy who kidnapped him, but like, it just seemed insanely hostile for this like political figure to be like, oh yeah, just kill him, just do it. It's like, I mean, that's still, you don't have say over what the Jedi do. And then it just seemed like, wouldn't he be like, damn, Palpatine's bloodthirsty, like, but then we get to,
I mean, yeah,
one of, I think, aside from I have the high ground, I think maybe the other greatest line in this movie.
Do it.
And it's like his voice.
I was waiting to see if you were doing it.
No, I was gonna wait for you. But like his voice just gets so deep, and like Palpatine makes these hilarious faces when he gets like extra evil as the movie goes on. Did you guys notice that?
Yes, during the lightsaber fight with Mace Windu, it's probably my favorite.
He's like losing his mind. It's like, oh my God, Palpatine.
He is actually insane.
Probably.
Yeah, but there's like a couple. Yeah. I love the prequels because of the like insane amount of like meme material that has come out of these over the past few years. Like even prior to this scene, we get like another like very popular line in the prequel meme community is this is where the fun begins, when they're starting their attack run on Grievous's ship.
It's like that's like the first line,
more or less.
But
yeah.
I find it and it's it's just ridiculous. Like throughout, like you're watching him make these weird movements with his mouth, and and did you guys see there was this meme of like, yeah, it was like a clone saying like, of course we wish that the prequels had better writing, but then we wouldn't have the memes.
Doing my duty, sir.
But then Anakin ends up pretty much beheading Dooku, and then immediately is like regretting it. Like, I shouldn't have done that. That's not the Jedi way. And even during the fight, Dooku's saying like, you're angry, you're hateful, but you're not using it. And it's
like, I sense great fear in you, Skywalker. You have hate, you have fear, but you don't use it. And then he just goes ham and just cuts his hands off. It's like, holy shit, you probably shouldn't have egged the guy who was trying to kill you on.
And so
yeah. Well, there was originally much more dialogue that was supposed to be in that scene.
Sam, I think you sent a screenshot of that a couple
Ben
days ago.
Ben had said this last time. I don't remember if it got cut out or not. But again, there was a lot of things that I had to trim down. But Ben had said how supposedly Anakin's turn to the dark side was actually a little more scripted than we thought, because supposedly Dooku, hired or paid off the Tusken Raiders to kidnap his mother, which, obviously they're going to kill her, which will likely set, Anakin on revenge mode. And we were kind of just like, holy crap, like that's insane. That changes so much. But Ben, you said you had no idea where that came from. And I guess I found an IMDb.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
And I guess it was something that was going to be mentioned, which that's really interesting. And that's a really interesting, I like that. I like that idea, but I agree that would have come off totally random in dialogue, at least.
Well, I mean, it's no more random than the dialogue that's left in there. It's like, it's only natural. You wanted revenge. He cut off your hand. You cut off his. And remember what you told me about your mother and the Sand People.
It would have been.
You just hear like a faint, like Tusken Raider, like shriek in the background. It's like,
yeah, but it just seems like
exactly instead of the hand thing.
I mean, I don't know. Because I think I just can't picture it as decent dialogue, like smoothly said dialogue. I think kind of just what we have is fine. And so this movie definitely has some issues with dialogue and some like small issues with story. It's definitely, of course, it's still not like as like perfect as like the originals are, but this is definitely, in terms of its, step in the right direction, but also its errors are not nearly as frustrating as or relevant as they are in the previous movies. But yeah, he's immediately filled with so much like regret for killing Dooku. Like he knows he shouldn't have done that, and I thought it was just why I understand that he and Palpatine are friends, but that's the other thing is they talk like the Jedi don't like how Anakin is friends with Palpatine, and we only see them interact they interact once in Attack of the Clones. And then they're like hanging out a bunch in this movie.
Yeah, I really feel like they should have kind of showcased
little bit,
that
like,
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do showcase that a fair amount in this movie to kind of to show like Palpatine kind of like sowing the seeds like mistrust towards the Jedi and Anakin, which I think is done very well in this movie. Like, I feel like those are some, like, the best scenes of just, like, him's like, oh, I'd be surprised if they don't pick you for this campaign. And then, lo and behold, they don't pick him because he's clearly not the best candidate, but he's just stroking his ego enough to, like, make him think that it's like, clearly I'm the best choice. I'm the best fighter, and I'm the best pilot. Let's do this. They should make me master. And it just keeps building up through those, like, micro conversations. And then we get, like, the scene of, like, him telling him like the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and like there's just so many scenes of just them having like these like brief bits of dialogue, and it's just continuous like building of like trust between themselves and building a rift between Anakin and like the rest of the Jedi, even Obi-Wan. Like they're like, dude, what's going on with you?
I feel
There's
like
something up.
I want to definitely want to revisit that because I thought so when actually right after he frees Palpatine and they're like, okay, we gotta go, and Palpatine's like, oh no, Anakin, just leave him. It's like, are you like, no, he's not gonna leave him. Like, and also, this was my other thing, like, he is setting this entire operation is to get Anakin to kill Dooku. And I'm assuming it's kind of like, well, if he doesn't kill Dooku, maybe he's not the apprentice he thinks he wants, or he would just have to find another way to make him realize, no, this is who you are.
Well, I feel like it would kind of be a win-win for Palpatine either way. It's like either Dooku gets killed and Anakin slowly kind of turns to the dark side, or Dooku kills Anakin, further like placing my loyalty in him, or something like that. Like either way, like Palpatine's getting out of an apprentice out of this deal.
But when he says like,
so
yeah,
I think
when
it was
he says
just,
like, like leave him, like leave Obi-Wan. There's no time. It's like, and I just think, like, first of all, wouldn't he be like, what the fuck? Like, why is he so, like, he wants me to kill... he wants me to kill his captor. But now he's, like, telling me, hey, leave this person. It's probably this person other than Padme that means more to him in his life. Like, and I think also right in this moment, this is kind of when Palpatine realizes, like, the only real thing now standing in his way is Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan,
because in this movie, like, because like Ahsoka wasn't like a thing at this point,
but she's also not here
the
during
only like
any of this.
No, she's in the timeline now. She is on Mandalore during the siege with Rex and that detachment of clones, but in the movie as of now, like the only people he cares about are Padme, Obi-Wan, and R2, and I guess to an extent 3PO, because like he built him, like that's like a remainder of like what was left of his childhood. But yeah, like those are like the only people he cares about. If you mess with them in any way, he's gonna go out of his way to protect them. So that's why he was like, no, if he dies, then so do we. It's like his fate is going to be the same as ours.
And I love this next scene because he's carrying Obi-Wan on his back. The ship then like downturns, and they're like struggling to climb into like the elevator shaft. And they're then like, it's on its side, and they're just running. And Palpatine's run is very like, I find his run a little funny. It was just like still trying to maintain his composure, but also he's running. And Anakin's like holding another human. And then the ship turns again. And now they're like holding on to like the, was it like the elevator, the cable?
Like cables and like, just like some like loose wires.
Palpatine's clinging onto his boots, and Obi-Wan then just wakes up and is like, it's like gripping Anakin. This whole sequence, it's like I will say like a funnier version of like Han and Luke breaking into the Star Destroyer, like the trash compactor. Like it's that scene of, this is intense, but this is this is intense, but this is really funny also.
But I also kind of want to point out, why did the clones like cripple the ship that badly? They know the Chancellor's on that ship. They almost made the ship that has their president. They almost had it crash into their planet. It's like, what are you doing? Stop shooting. Just cripple the ship. Don't destroy it.
When they're like, they're first getting into the elevator shaft and they're just like falling into it. It's so ridiculous. But that's, I mean, it's just, gravity. It's just funny. But they end up, obviously dealing with Grievous, all that. They then crash land on Naboo, and
Coruscant.
Sorry. Coruscant. I'm sorry. They crash land on Coruscant, and Obi-Wan goes,
another happy landing.
Obi-Wan, so in the Clone Wars, he makes a ton of jokes just in his dialogue, but I feel like Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan his jokes, the way he says them, it's like he's looking around like, is anyone gonna laugh? Like, that's the general vibe I get. And I realize Clone Wars Obi-Wan comes off to me more like Agent K in Men in Black. He's saying these jokes for his own amusement. Whereas this Obi-Wan, he's definitely saying it for his own amusement, but there's definitely like a sense of like he wants somebody to laugh or respond to his joke.
I kind of understand what you're saying. I don't fully agree with the Agent K analysis.
Well, just of how how he delivers these jokes, and he's just saying a joke. Whether he's just his delivery is very much just he's not waiting for a response. Whereas this Obi-Wan,
okay,
that's what I mean.
Okay, I kind of see that. It's like two very different like styles of comedy.
I know.
It's like one's like dry as a bone and funny, and this one's like a little bit more like snarky. It's like, okay.
So when they're on Coruscant, and now why is Grievous until Grievous is found, the war is going to continue?
Because he's the leader of the droid armor.
He's the leader of the droid army.
Dooku was like basically like the head of the army. Well, actually, no, Dooku was the head of the Separatist Senate.
Yeah.
And Grievous was in charge of the droid army. So they basically like killed like their like Speaker of the House. They basically killed the Speaker of the House for the Separatist alliance. But their head general and leader of the entire army is still out and about and at large. No one's really directly running the Senate now, so there's a little bit of like disorganization on their part, but the overall military presence is still very much active, so therefore the war will still go on. So Grievous's death really wouldn't have changed anything.
Okay.
Other than it's like, hey, what
well, Grievous is taking out Grievous is more of a symbolic thing. It's like, look, we took out the leader.
It would have been cutting the head off the snake, effectively, because I mean, as we've seen of the battle droids in the movies, they kind of get like a personality upgrade and are a little bit more like chatty. Like in this one, like there's like a couple moments where like the droids are like, like, oh, you stupid astromech, and they're kicking R2 and all that, and just like, oh, excuse me, pardon me, like they're a little bit more vocal. But it seems like with that personality upgrade, they were like a little bit, I guess, less intimidating than they were in Phantom Menace. Like they're like all marching in complete unison, not saying a word, but when they're marching on the Gungans, like that's a great shot. I don't care what you say.
Well, it's like even in canon, there's reasons for why
like
there's the difference. There is in episode 1, they were all controlled by a central computer. Whereas in episode 2 and 3, they
independent
started having
thinking,
more free will,
and then they all say "Roger, Roger" all at the same time. It's like, oh, he's one of the old B1 models, not like us independent thinkers. Roger, 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 Roger.
So, when they're back on Coruscant, and Jar Jar he's just there. He has no dialogue in this movie at all, and
good.
Everyone's favorite version of Jar Jar, the one that doesn't talk. And
yes,
do you guys wish Bail Organa was he's the most relevant in this movie. He's in Attack of the Clones a little bit. Do you guys think he should have been in it a little more, or just he's in it a right amount?
Originally he was. There were several deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith. One of them had there's a lot. Two deleted scenes were of the death of the same person. Jedi Master Shak Ti, who has, I think on record, she's the red Jedi that looks, it's the same species as Ahsoka.
Oh, is she the one that was like works on Kamino?
Yeah, Togruta.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But this was before she worked on.
Yeah.
She was supposed to work on.
Yeah. Originally she was. Originally she was like tasked to protecting Palpatine during the invasion before he got kidnapped, and then she died, and like it was a whole thing. But I think canonically, or like at one point, she had the highest number of deaths in the Star Wars franchise, because she's died like, I want to say like 5 or 6 times now.
So like a soap opera. She just keeps dying and then turns out she's alive.
4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like she dies and then it gets retconned and she's alive and then she dies again immediately. She's died, like, I remember she dies like twice in the deleted scenes in this movie. Once in the Clone Wars, once in Clone Wars again because of, Order 66. Like, I think once in a comic or a book, and then once in the Force Unleashed where you have to assassinate her yourself.
Is she the one?
It's like, holy
there
shit.
was like a deleted scene or concept or whatever that Anakin kills her in the Jedi Temple or something. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, there was a concept of that, and then there was a deleted scene where, like, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are like infiltrating Grievous's ship, Grievous just executes her right in front of them. Yeah, it's like very brutal. Yeah,
had executed her and captured her earlier.
But yeah, they're back to like Bail Organa. There were some, Bail Organa, Basil Organa.
I was hoping you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there were several deleted scenes where like him, Mon Mothma, and Padme, as well as a few other senators, are kind of talking about like the general state of the Republic and kind of form like the basis of the rebellion.
That's holy crap. So,
Mon Mothma got the short end of the stick in this movie. She had a ton of scenes that were almost
and it's the same actress who played Mon Mothma in Rogue One. She looks like almost exactly like the actress who played Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi. The resemblance is uncanny. They had fantastic job casting that actress. I forget her name.
I'm surprised they didn't release like an extended version.
You would have to just find the various scenes on. Yeah, they're all on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're hard to find.
They were all on the DVD and Blu-ray versions. I have most of them.
Because Bail is obviously. I mean, like we don't. Do we know he's gonna be the one that's gonna raise Leia? I mean, we know he's from Alderaan, right?
Well, she was Leia Organa. Name?
Well, yeah, no, I know. I'm just like, so it's not that's not the. Because I was like wondering, I'm like, do we assume that, or do we know that?
You never met Bail in the original trilogy.
Yeah, no, I know that. I meant, just like, because obviously they are making him more present because he's going to raise Leia. But I do. I mean, he's only in it again like a little bit, but I genuinely like his character, and in Clone Wars, he's there a lot, and I like his.
And he's briefly in Rogue One.
Yeah. And a little bit in Rebels,
which I thought was great. Yeah, I thought that was great that they cast him. They brought Jimmy Smits back for that scene.
That's
like it wouldn't have been the same if they just had a lookalike actor for that scene.
That scene where he says
he was
like
the right age to do it.
Oh yeah. When
absolutely.
He says, "I gotta go back to Alderaan," and my sister and I are like, maybe don't.
Hey, maybe you should take a vacation.
Yeah.
Go to Naboo.
Yeah. But Anakin and Padme are finally reunited, and
it's like, book your Star Tours flight today for your vacation.
Anakin and Padme
gotta bring it back to Disney.
are finally reunited, and I have to say this: I know a lot of the reason why people didn't like Attack of the Clones was because of the dialogue, and they thought the romance was a little cringy, and I still think it kind of. I said several times in the last 2 episodes about how they are kind of living out this romance novel, and Padme in this still seems to very much be kind of the weeping wife of the hero. It's really cemented in this, but I gotta say, I do genuinely really love them as a couple. I think Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, I fully believe that they are in love. I think they do a great job with that. Their dialogue might be cringy, and a lot of it might be a little over dramatic, but they have fully convinced me that they are really in love and they're willing to risk everything to be together. And this is why I was asking about the timeline, because she's wearing this long, large cloak thing, assumingly because she's about to tell him she's pregnant and probably doesn't want him to see her stomach before she says anything, because that would be overwhelming. And like, and holy crap. And how pregnant is she? Because she doesn't really go into labor. She's dying and delivers the babies, and they're probably a little premature, but they are clearly well enough that they're able to be, just, oh yeah, go take them, go hide them. Like, so I'm just curious, how pregnant is she? How, like, but also, like,
well, since
you go just.
Well, since the span of this movie is about a week,
5 days.
She's about ready to pop. So
but
9
she
months.
Doesn't look that for carrying twins. She does not look as pregnant. And one of the last scenes we see her in, when she's with Anakin on Mustafar, she looks the least pregnant in that scene. And I'm like, she's about to give birth, really? Like, she looks like a few months in. I don't know. I've never been pregnant, but like,
neither have I, so I'm not an expert in this.
But so this is my other thing, is that we talked a little bit about like how they're together. They've been married by this point for 3 years, and it does not surprise me that she's pregnant, because you got to assume whenever he's back on Coruscant or he's on meditative leave or whatever, it's probably Pound Town with those two. Like,
Jesus Christ!
I told some of my friends that, and they're like, I thought this was going to be useful or like actually important.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
yeah,
I'm not wrong at all.
Oh my god!
I didn't say anything that bad, jeez. But
I was not expecting that, is all.
but really, how much time were they actually together? Because he's probably gone for weeks or months at a time in the span of 3 years.
I mean,
like,
well, I mean, he even says that, like, oh, I can't believe it's been so long.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the attack on Coruscant, we'd probably still be in the Outer Rim sieges, because he was originally going to go to Mandalore with Ahsoka for that, but then Grievous attacked. So and he really seemed to have no idea for like the entirety of her pregnancy. So I guess
most of that, like, holy crap.
Most of her pregnancy, so like at least 9 months, I guess.
And I remember
unless she hid it from him like in the beginning, but I feel like he would have sensed it.
I was like
sensed
but also he picks her up and like swings her around and hugs her. It's like, wouldn't you feel that? Her stomach?
I guess the excuse is he's used to her wearing crazy fashion. I guess the bulge in her belly was just a fashion statement because of the various weird costumes that she has worn over the events of these movies. Very, very eccentric dresses. I just remember her dress from Naboo, like that red one with like that huge like arch hairdo that she had.
Iconic one.
Yeah, the iconic one. And it had like those like orange bubbles like along like the hem of her dress at like the bottom. Maybe it was a homage to that. That's why there's like a bulge in her belly. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
But Anakin, obviously, she says like she's pregnant, and he's very like, I'm just so curious. Did they like? And she's like, what are we gonna do? And it's like, I remember I saying to you like, so everyone just knows she's pregnant, but they obviously don't know she's married to Anakin. So do they think she's like, what do people think? I'm just so
one night
curious,
stand
like,
gone wrong. I don't know.
Oh my god! But he's like,
what, do you have a better idea? Because I don't.
No, I was just like, I'm just so curious, and like, she's in a relationship that she's just not talking about, like, which obviously is the case, but anyway, he's clearly really like shocked and like, holy crap, and like, I can't believe they've never had this discussion, and he doesn't seem to care as much about being a father. It's all about Padme. Everything in this movie it all comes back to Padme.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, and we gotta jump to, I think, my one of my favorite scenes, because it's so stupid.
Hold up. Right
Wait.
before we get to that, we get a scene of Grievous going to Uptapa, and he runs by like all like the various like separatist leaders that have gathered there. And before I kind of get into it, I want to point out when when Anakin and Obi-Wan and like the Chancellor like first arrive on Coruscant, and like there's like that various like entourage of like senators and other like political members. There is one member there who is he's a core, and he's like the squid face guy. Is like wearing like a very like easily identifiable like piece of clothing. And then when Grievous is like running through like by like all the senators and like the various separatist leaders, there's the same Corrin wearing the exact same clothes. Like, I guess this is just a reused costume, but I thought that was hilarious that it's just the exact same guy. Unless he's like wearing like the identical clothing, but it's just like you double.
Well, that's their senatorial garb or whatever.
I guess, but it was just, I thought that was really funny.
But the real reason is they made one prop for the movie.
I figured it was a thing like that, but it's just like, I want to know this guy's story. Make him a movie, Disney. And then Grievous talks to Lord Sidious, and it's like, oh, like Dooku's loss was a necessary sacrifice. The end of the war is near, and soon I'm gonna have like a much stronger and younger apprentice. So move the separatist leaders to Mustafar. They'll be safe there. And then we go to your scene, Sam. So take it away.
So, oh my god, I have this like, Anakin is like just watching Padme brush her hair on the balcony, which, first of all, her hair in this, I think, is hilarious. It's super curly. It's like 80s curls. Like, it's really big and curly, and she's got this thing in her hair that looks kind of like, I know it's hard, but it looks like, because of her hair, it looks like she's like in a scrunchie or something. I know that's not what it is, but, and she's wearing a nightgown that has like beads off like the shoulder, and she sleeps in that, and it's like, would that be comfortable? I can't imagine that it would. But anyway, she's brushing her hair, which is another thing. Like, if she's brushing her hair with those curls, they would uncurl. So maybe she's combing it. I don't know. But I just thought this was hilarious. She's out on the balcony just brushing her hair. Her husband's just watching her. Like, and they're talking about like, hey, why don't we go to Naboo to have our baby? And he's just like, this is the dialogue. You're so beautiful. It's only because I'm so in love. No, it's because I'm so in love with you. It's like, wait. Like, I feel like that's the equivalent of
romance.
I feel like it's the equivalent of Friends. Like they don't know that we know they know we know. Like, they're just like, wait, what? So let's break this down. He thinks she's so beautiful. She says she's so beautiful because she's so in love, and he says, no, you're so beautiful because I'm so in love with you. That is the dialogue, and I just think it's hilarious. And we then
I mean, I guess it's better than I don't like sand.
But I don't like sand. Like I said last time, it's stupid, but it could have led to a larger conversation, or it could have been made more important, whereas this was just awkward and funny. So Anakin then, they're in bed, he's asleep, and he has his nightmare about Padme dying. And then the movie then turns into the worst episode of That's So Raven ever, where he has a vision, and in his attempts of not making it true, God. It comes true. I remember when Order 66 was happening, when we were watching it, and I'm like, we get a lot of movies about men who are really worried about becoming a father. And this is like the most extreme version I think I've ever seen. But anyway, so he, of course, is panicking because of this is a similar situation of when he had similar visions of his mother and does not want to lose Padme. And when he says, like, when he tells her, she, of course, only cares about the baby, and he doesn't care at all about, he keeps saying, like, our baby is a blessing. And it's like, I know, obviously, let's say everything worked out and whatever. I'm sure he probably would have loved his kids, but like he really only cares about how this is affecting Padme. He does not care about the babies or baby that they think, like, at all. And she obviously, as a mother, only cares about what's going to happen. Like, she doesn't think, she's like, that's ridiculous. Why would I die in childbirth? But also, she is like, says, what about the baby? She cares about that. He doesn't. And that is so evident right away. And then we get into Anakin talking with Yoda about, like, oh, I'm having visions about someone close to me. And I've talked about him before on YouTube. There's this great Star Wars theory guy. It's just called Star Wars Theory, and he has a theory about if in this scene Yoda realized he was talking about Padme, and they all figured out that he was married, and then it was like, what would happen? And it's like it's pretty. I don't want to get all into it, but it's pretty interesting. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of like really cool like Star Wars like speculation and theory videos on YouTube, and I definitely like Star Wars Theory and was it? There's like I think it was Smuggler's Cantina is another great one, and as well as Gately's is probably my personal favorite. But yeah, it is kind of crazy because we do kind of find out in Clone Wars that like Obi-Wan and to a sense several other members of the Jedi are like aware that he does have feelings for Padme. They just had no idea that he has acted to this extreme of a degree to, you know, marry her and, you know, get her pregnant and all that. So I guess they're just like, hey, calm down. You gotta be willing to let go of any attachments because we don't want another incident of like you go on postal on some
do
Tusken
they know
Raiders
about
again.
that?
Okay, we don't.
I mean, probably like he didn't tell them, but they figured, like, Yoda, like we said like last time, like he's feeling it, so we probably can infer what's going on. But
yeah, I mean, I think Qui-Gon told him through the Force because when that scene's happening in Attack of the Clones and you hear like Yoda's like meditating and you just hear like, you know, all the Tusken Raiders getting like killed and like the lightsaber like zwooshing noise and you hear Liam Neeson's like, Anakin, no.
I went back and watched that and I'm like, oh, that's who's saying that when you guys said that was Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But this actually brings up there is a theory that I think is worth mentioning because I think it's very on point. Mm-hmm. So Obi-Wan, obviously, yes, to a degree, the council knew he cares about, especially Obi-Wan, knows that he cares or he's in love with Padme. And there is like an episode in Clone Wars where Obi-Wan, you know, goes to Anakin and is kind of saying like, you know, I've had some, you know, because he had his whole thing with Satine. He's like, I've been in a similar situation. It's totally normal, but you got to learn to let go. And he's trying to do this to the best that he can. But the whole thing is that if Qui-Gon had done it, he would have been direct and said, or what is going on with you and Padme? And the whole reason that Obi-Wan kind of danced around it was because he knew that whether he knew how deep they were in or not, if he had been direct, it would have come down to, you have to pick between Padme and the Jedi Order. And obviously Anakin would have picked Padme without question. So he would have lost him. And it was the whole point of it was like, so Obi-Wan is just as attached as anyone, as Anakin, as they like, you know, shame him for. And I just found that really like, oh my God, like I didn't think about that. And I think that's a very on point, like, analysis of what's going on, because yeah, like he's not subtle at all with his relationship with Padme. Like, he doesn't tell people, but he does a horrible job at covering it up.
Yeah, and he even has like Rex lie for him on his behalf. It's like, dude, really? You're gonna pick a guy whose like sole purpose is to be loyal to the Jedi, to lie to a Jedi? It's like, okay, good luck with that. You clearly want to get caught. So yeah,
there's the next scene. what is the next scene? Is it him talking with Palpatine? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's him. So it's him talking with Yoda, and then him going to Obi-Wan saying like, "Hey, you're late for the meeting. The outer rim sieges are going great." And then Obi-Wan tells him, like, "Hey, the Chancellor's like specifically requested you." It's like, well, that's kind of unusual. It's like, this whole thing's unusual. I don't trust him. Like, watch out. And then we get like one of the several scenes of Palpatine kind of sowing distrust between Anakin and the various council by saying like, "Hey, I want you to be my personal representative on the Jedi Council." It's like, all right, that's kind of weird. I mean, I'll take it because, I want to be a master and I want to be in the council. But the only thing is the Jedi decide who goes on the council and who becomes a master. So when he goes back and tells them that, it's like, all right, we'll let you be a member on the council. You are a member of this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master. Have a seat, Skywalker. And he's like, "Oh, this is unfair. This is bullshit." It's like, how can I be a master, or how can I? It's like he just has like a
that famous line in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin.
Why would they even?
I mean, it was PG-13. He could have said it.
Why would they even entertain?
They're allowed one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie.
I think it's 2.
Where would it be?
Yeah.
It depends on the usage.
Why would they even bother? Okay, they won't grant him the rank of master, and I mean, we know obviously now that you can't become a master without training a Padawan. Which, forget that for a second. Like, other than that, why is it because they just don't trust him?
Well, they feel like he's still kind of immature, and this tantrum is clearly a point in their favor.
But also, why would
the reason why they want him?
You go.
They want him on the council is because they want him to spy on the Chancellor and like directly report back to us on like, any of like the weird sketchy shit that Palpatine's doing. So like, yeah, you can still be a member on this council because you are a very skilled member of the Jedi Order and are basically like the poster boy of the Jedi at this point. Like, everyone knows who you are.
Because it's specifically because they want him to spy on Palpatine, because it just seems like if they have so much distrust in Palpatine that even going along with putting him on the council just seems like playing into his hand, and they have to probably recognize that to some degree. Maybe not obviously the whole reason for it, but like, I understand they want him to spy, but why can't he spy on him without being on the council and not even bother, in a sense, try to take back the control that Palpatine's trying really hard to take from them? Do you get what I mean? Like,
yeah, I kind of feel like I understand what you're saying. But I feel like it had to be done in the way that it's shown in the movie so that it made more sense for Anakin's turn to the dark side was more relevant, by making it seem that like the council doesn't trust his judgment and they're like making him an errand boy, even though he has like this great honor, but they're kind of just doing it superficially just so that like Palpatine's like not, I guess, suspicious or something. It's like, yeah, you kind of have this on the technicality that you're doing this for us.
Okay, because
like, does that make sense?
Yeah, because I mean, Mace Windu from the beginning never wanted Anakin to be trained, and never. I mean, and obviously we know probably to a degree, yes, he trusts him, but at the same time, overall, no, he doesn't.
Well, it's something that's never really explained in the movies is Mace Windu's like unique Jedi power is that he can see shatter points. So it's like he can see like points in time or certain events or and stuff where doing one thing can drastically change the future.
What? Why doesn't he ever? That doesn't even come up in like Clone Wars.
The most specific one that I can remember is in Attack of the Clone. It was covered in the expanded universe book, Shatterpoint.
Okay, my favorite book.
But so there is a the best example is when he's standing next to Dooku in the Petranaki Arena in Attack of the Clones. He knows that if he kills Dooku right here, he can stop the war from ever happening.
Mace Windu? Oh my god. Yeah. So
that is true.
But he can
Oh wow. Okay. There's so many factors. Like, oh shit.
And so that's probably so whenever he sees Anakin, he knows it's like there's is something gonna go bad here if we do anything with this kid. But
It's like everyone's kind of on board here, so I guess we're gonna train him, much to my chagrin. Um, but so they make Anakin a member of the council, and then we get the classic line of "What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?" And Yoda goes, and we get that conversation of Obi-Wan, Windu, and Yoda of like, "Hey, I don't trust him," and like just kind of talking about like the prophecy of like, is he not the one who's supposed to bring balance to the Force? It's like maybe we misread it. It's like I don't trust him. There's a lot of dark side around him, and it surrounds both him and the Chancellor. So it's like this seems really dangerous. Which, if they knew that, then why did they make Anakin the one to spy on the Chancellor? Like, I
Yeah.
understand that, I understand that they're close, but it's like they're close enough to the point where it's like that's like telling like me to like, or like that's like telling someone to like spy on their significant other even though like there's no reason for them to suspect anything else. It's like, no, I'm gonna trust. It's like your best friend's telling you to like spy on like your own wife. It's like I'm gonna trust like this relationship's stronger than this relationship. So it's like I don't know who to trust now. I'm not trusting you, friend. It's kind of like a weird kind of like they shot themselves in the foot by asking him to
Yeah,
do that.
and Obi-Wan does not like having to tell him, and he's very much, like I said, he's changed so much since the last one. Like, he has so much trust and respect for Anakin by this point that he does not feel comfortable saying they want you to spy on Palpatine. And well, Anakin in the last one was saying he thinks Palpatine's a good man and whatever, but I felt like, was he doing that because he actually thinks that, or is he just disagreeing with Obi-Wan because it's like teenage rebellion?
No, I think he genuinely believes that
Okay.
because on in Attack of the Clones, he's saying like there's like that conversation between like Anakin and Padme. It's like, you really don't like politicians, do you? It's like, I like one or two of them. It's like I'm still kind of on the fence about one of them, and he's kind of like talking about her, but like the one that he does like pretty much unanimously agree with is Palpatine. Like that's like the one
well, it's
politician.
Palpatine's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job
Yeah,
done.
and that's one of the reasons why he likes him as well as Tarkin, because like I'll do whatever it takes to
Yeah.
win a war and a battle. It's like that's why in the Clone Wars they have like that kind of like mutual like militaristic agreement on how to govern a war, because like
Yeah.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Are you, Master Jedi? It's like, yeah, I guess I am. It's like I wish more Jedi were like you. It's like, I hope not.
So, he ends up having like a conversation with Padme of like, I'm not the Jedi I should be. I want more. And obviously, there are so many factors that played into Anakin's turn to the dark side. I think I'm gonna hold back on my big question that I have later, but I think Qui Gon's death is not the only factor. That is a factor, but I don't think that's the only factor. And um, he obviously, and I feel like the general consensus is a lot of people kind of, they don't agree with what he did, but they do agree that he was pushed to the dark side because, and a lot of it was because of the council failing him. And one of those reasons being also that, he was being held back. So I'm kind of curious, like, because I was thinking about this as the movie went on, like, you know, he, when he's, with Palpatine and he's just going and basically, yeah, like killing everybody. A lot of them are, bad people, but a lot of them are not. But they're in, Palpatine's
Yeah.
eyes, his eyes, causes of the war, whatever. What is him? I'm just so curious. Like, what does it look like if he was not held back? Because there is. It's not just him being held back because he's going to go to the dark side. Like, there's a fine line before that, like, of what does Anakin look like without the Jedi restraining him so much versus him being just like
I,
unleashed later.
uh, do, do you
Oh
want to take
god.
this one, Ben?
I mean, It's kind of look at the way Anakin acts toward
Okay.
the end of the Clone Wars, when he starts to use more unconventional methods for winning battles and that type stuff.
Yeah. Like
Like
war crimes, like
specifically
all the time.
the bridge scene at yeah, specifically the bridge scene at the
Yeah.
toward the end of Clone Wars,
Yeah.
last season of Clone Wars, where he surrenders just to get close enough to attack them, which is
How
a
was that? I
massive
mean,
war
but it
crime.
works, and
But
was
Yes.
anybody on board with it, or did nobody know? I forget.
the
Like
501st did.
yeah, his entire legion knew about that. They all had jetpacks and were
They were
waiting
sitting
to
underneath
ambush.
the bridge waiting.
They all had jetpacks. They was like, all right, we're waiting. Oh, or the time where he pretended to fake surrender on the blockade on Ryloth, and he just rammed his entire cruiser into the control ship. War crime.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I know we've talked about this obviously a lot. Like he's very comfortable with killing, and he does have a moral compass enough that he understands like good versus bad, and then this gets blurred in this movie. But yeah.
Although sometimes he does do bad things for good intentions, like when he interrogates, air quotes, Poggle the Lesser to figure out how to stop the like the brain leeches, like whatever the hell they're called.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever like actually given a name, but yeah, when he's interrogating him, he's just beating the crap out of him, and then
He just
force chokes him. Yeah. Well, at first he like punches him and knocks him on the ground, and then he chokes him, and then you hear the imperial theme. It's like, ooh, okay, kind of pushing some barriers there, bud. Why don't we cool down a bit?
Then there's when he killed the senator or whatever it was that Obi-Wan and Satine
See,
couldn't
I
decide
didn't
what
bring
to
that
do
up because
Oh,
the
yeah,
last
it's
time
like,
we brought it up, Ben, you said that we
yeah.
had the exact same conversation a year ago. So I'm like specifically
Yes.
that,
You guys had the exact same conversation
which
twice.
is why I
like
didn't
word
bring
for
it
word
up.
almost.
All right,
Which is
let's
why
go
I
for
didn't bring
three.
it up.
Let's go for
But
three.
no, seriously, like that is a example, and that's why I bring it up all the time because, yeah, like I mean, obviously he says he wants more, but there is a more that's not the dark side. So, right? Really?
Not really. I mean, there's like a few like force abilities from like the light side that he could learn, but there's not a whole lot that he hasn't already either shown mastery or like at least some kind of basic understanding of like how and why it works. For the most part, the only other force abilities that he hasn't used are pretty much just exclusively dark side
Because I think
abilities.
Well,
And
there's
even then he doesn't even use a lot of them. Like he never force lightnings like ever. Like that's just not a thing that he does.
I
And
think
also,
that's explained because he doesn't have actual
Oh.
hands.
yeah, he physically
So
cannot
he
do
would
that.
literally kill himself if he tried to do it.
Yeah, or just blow up his arm.
Palpatine, I did it
Yeah.
again. His arms are just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we see like in like Mandalorian, like Ahsoka, and as well as Kanan and Rebels, of there is being a Jedi, following the path of the Jedi, but obviously doing it in your own way, and being successful at it. And
Well, it's being a gray Jedi.
I mean,
not
okay,
a
but
lighter
it's
dark
still
side.
like that's still a
But yeah,
version of the Jedi that's not dark or a Sith, and it works. So I think that's kind of to it. Yes,
To a degree, yes. They're kind of they're kind of just
yeah, but that
independent,
seems
neutral
to,
parties.
for the most part, work for them at least. Anakin,
Yeah.
would that work for Anakin?
I don't think so because he teeters like
Yeah.
way too much to do one thing for one side and then kind of pushes the boundaries in a negative way for the one side. So I don't think it works because he is way too emotional for any kind of non-biased way
Yeah.
of thinking because he is a very
Yeah.
opinionated character. So yeah. Keeping that in mind, jumping back into the movie, the various generals and Jedi are like Yoda goes to Kashyyyk, and which I feel like
What
was
about
such.
the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yeah, George attacking the Wookiees. He goes there, and which I feel like was kind of a waste
Good
because
relations with the Wookiees.
I love it though because,
yes, I felt like was such a waste of potential because we only see the Wookiees for like
but it's not like the
two
the
scenes.
Gungans. They all look
And
different, right? They yeah.
yeah, they all
Well,
yeah, they're
there
all
was
actual suits.
there was 10 suits,
Yeah,
and they
there.
just digitally they just took there's only 10 suits, and then they would just pose and just digitally insert different poses all over the place.
Yeah, I although I felt like it would have been awesome if we had like a droid versus Gungan type scene with the Wookiees because the Wookiees are so badass, and like the few
It
scenes
just
that
would
we
have
get
been
with
Wookiees
them,
just tearing droids apart by
yeah,
hand.
yeah, that would have been amazing. I would have paid just to see that scene,
But
full price.
yeah.
But yeah, so they do that, and then prior to that, Palpatine's like, "Hey, I have some news for you. Anakin, join me at this opera. Grievous is on Uptapa, and I think you should lead this campaign. I'd be surprised if the council doesn't pick you."
Palpatine,
Kind of
shut
sowing the
up.
seeds of that. And then we get the infamous. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth
Oh, they're
Plagueis
at
the
but
Wise
actually by the way,
scene?
he's at like a show, and it's just like it's like a bubble
Yeah,
with a
he's at
bunch
like an
of lights,
It's an
opera.
and I'm
opera.
like, what are they watching?
It's a
Yeah, Ben, take it away.
it's a Mon Calamari opera.
Like the
So
Mozart
it's
of
like floating
Galaxy.
in bubbles of water and
Sure.
sort of yeah.
Sure, something like that.
Mon Calamari, like the
Yes. Okay. I'm
race,
like, I know.
Akbar.
Akbar.
Admiral
I was gonna
Akbar.
say,
It's a trap.
Admiral,
The
it's a
opera.
trap.
Yes.
I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
I'd watch
The
that
opera was
too.
during production. The opera was nicknamed Squid
Oh
Lake.
my god. But at
my
this
God.
point, I think this is when it's like,
So yeah.
like we kind of said last time. I don't think there was no moment of what? No way. Palpatine's the Emperor. I think as the movie, it is becoming so obvious that when it happens, I'm like, okay, yeah. And this is when it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
It's pretty much in your face without exclusively telling you, because he's telling this story of like a very powerful Sith Lord. It's like, how would you know about this? Seems very intimate firsthand knowledge for a old Sith legend, which apparently is only like
so is
20 years
Palpatine?
old or
I'm
something like
assuming
that.
Palpatine was
'Cause
never a Jedi, and he was only trained as like a Sith.
Oh, Palpatine
Yeah.
was exclusively a Sith, and the requirements for that Sith, which is explained in the book, like just Plagueis or Darth Plagueis,
I think just Plagueis.
yeah,
Yes.
he was Plagueis's apprentice who killed Plagueis, and one of the tasks that Plagueis gave Palpatine, I don't know if this is canon or not, was I need you to kill a member of your family. So while they were on vacation on their cruiser, he killed every single member of his family with his bare hands, as well as every single living
Plagueis or
person
Plagueis'
on that
apprentice?
ship, which I think was like
The apprentice?
what?
No, I
No,
know, but
Darth
I'm like
Plagueis was
saying
his
who's
master.
the. I guess I know it's Palpatine, but like who in the story is the one that's killing the entire family?
Oh, Sheev. Palpatine
Okay,
is killing his entire family.
I know that's his name, but that's never how we've ever referred to him. Okay, that's who I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so yeah, Palpatine kills. He was only asked to kill one. He kills his entire family as well as like all the servants and crew members on like their luxury cruise liner. They're basically like their space yacht while they're on vacation.
Yeah,
He kills every single one of them with his bare hands. Like, holy shit, this guy is insane.
his bare
and
hands.
That's the kind of level.
Damn,
His bare hands.
crap.
Yeah. It is. The man is brutal. And we kind of get like a little bit more of an insight on him when he's like saying like, oh yeah, like Plagueis was like so powerful he could like prevent people from dying. Kind of like, hey, I know you've been having bad dreams about Padme, and kind of further like trying to seduce Anakin to the dark side. It's like, is it possible to learn this power? It's like, not from a Jedi. Wink.
It's so weird because this is a movie that I feel like I remember my drama teacher in college saying that every time he reads Death of a Salesman, he learns something new. And I feel like that's kind of almost how I would say watching the prequels. I feel like I notice or pick up on something new. And I remember like, I think it was the second time I saw this, I was very like, he is really seducing him to the dark side. It's not just like, it's almost weird. It's very like creepy. Like, he is truly like slowly investing him and getting him intrigued by the dark side to the point where,
I mean, he's been working on this. He's been working on this sales pitch since
at
Phantom
what
Menace, so
point did
he's
he know
pretty
though?
much
So
got
did
it
he
mastered.
know it by Phantom Menace?
I mean, he pretty much knew what the Jedi knew at that point. I feel like, because he has eyes and ears. He has spies everywhere, and like, if the Jedi are taking like such interest in like this kind of like unusually like older kid to be a Padawan learner, it's like, I'm gonna keep my eye on you. And then through like the events of like Attack of the Clones and all that, it's like, oh yeah, this kid's going to be something. I'm gonna keep my eye on him.
Okay, because I was always wondering if it was Attack of the Clones or if it was Phantom Menace that he
Well,
put this together.
even in like even in Phantom Menace, like all the Jedi saying like, "Hey, we sense like much fear in you," and then they do like the fear leads to hate, hate leads to anger, anger leads to suffering, and like that whole
Yeah.
like progression to like the dark side. And it's like, we can sense like a lot of fear in you, and they can sense like how strong the force is around him. So it's like Palpatine, like at the end of the movie, is like, "We will watch your career with great interest," and of course, now watching it, it's like, yeah, we know you will.
Yeah, but it's just so like, I think I, at the first time I watched it, I didn't think much of it, and the second time I was very aware of it is in a sense a seduction, and the manipulation is just so intense and he's so good at intriguing Anakin with that he can do so much more with the dark side than the light, and it's just kind of fascinating to me. But is it, no, it's like, it's what happens between, so Obi-Wan goes off to what planet?
Yeah, Utapau.
And they're Anakin's like, I'm sorry, Master, I haven't been grateful. And this is when Obi-Wan's like, yeah, I wish you could come with me. Like, his issue is not with Obi-Wan, it's with the Council. And I feel like the fight and all of his hatred, he takes it out on Obi-Wan later, but really it's on because of the Council. It's not as much on Obi-Wan. And in this moment, I realized when he's like, "Okay, bye, Obi-Wan," and he's like, "Bye, Anakin," and I was like, "Oh, right, this is the last time they will not see each other until Mustafar." Like, it was, oh god,
yeah,
and
pretty much.
Holy crap! And I think, is it after this? Does he go back to Palpatine one more time?
After this scene, we get we get the scene of like Obi-Wan like hello there, and like confronting Grievous, and then like that whole like battle engages. You are a bold.
Do you think that was part of his, like, when he's like when as a kid, when they're like, "Hey, we want to train you to be a Jedi," it's like, can I crack jokes when I am about to fight my enemy? It's like, yeah, sure, all right, I am in.
I mean, we don't encourage that, but I mean, it's not exactly against the rules. So it's, I mean, do what you're comfortable with, I guess. But yeah, we get the whole hello there, and like that whole first contact scene on Otapa with the battle like finally starting. And then we jump back to the Jedi Temple and like the various the council meeting with like Mace Windu and Yoda, because Yoda is in the middle of a battle on Kashyyyk with all the Wookiees and droids and various clones. And Mace Windu tells Anakin's like, "Hey, tell Chancellor Palpatine that Obi-Wan has made contact with Grievous on Utapau," and it kind of gauges his reaction so he can figure out what his intentions are. So he goes over there, tells him that, and then that's when Palpatine's like, "All right, screw this."
He's not getting it.
By the way, I'm a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a Sith Lord, you idiot.
Wait, you are?
I basically spelled it out last night during that opera. How have you not noticed
Where he
it
says,
until
like,
now?
It's they're like kind of starting. I do love this scene because they're kind of circling each other, and Anakin's really starting to be like, something he kind of has been picking up, has to have been picking up on something, but it's at this moment where they're kind of circling each other, and he says like, you know, if you
You're the
can,
Sith Lord.
you can even learn how to save your wife, and he's just like, what? And then that's kind of when it all.
Yeah, and then he whips out his lightsaber and it's like, you're the Sith
And
Lord.
I mean, obviously, I'm assuming it's the same as with the Jedi. Like, it's not subtle between the two of them.
Yeah.
So of
Oh
course, he
no,
figured it
not
out.
at all. So yeah, he's like they do all that, and it's like because of like it's like okay, I need to do this right, and it's like I'm gonna go to the Jedi Temple and we're gonna arrest you. It's like you should do that, you should do that, and like Palpatine's all like no
See,
attempt to
that's what
stop him,
pissed
but
me
it's like
off.
but do
Like,
you
it
really
just,
think
again, it's very clear that yes, this is all part of his plan. Anakin is just literally falling right into his trap, and but
yeah, it's like tell them they should
it
come and arrest me,
just
but are you really think that of what their intentions are with the Senate after I'm gone? Do you really like he makes it seem like the Jedi are going to take over,
yeah.
and like he lays a
Oh
very
yes,
compelling argument
and
that
I think it was
like it only gets like more it only gets like more and more like compelling every time
yes,
I watch it now.
exactly.
It's like uh, I hate it when the bad guy makes a like valid point. It's like damn it, I hate you, but I kind of agree with you. That
But
does
that's
make
kind of like what I
sense.
was just like thinking. I'm like, okay, he knows Anakin is not gonna just right away be like, okay, sure, I'll join you. He's still going to do what Anakin is fundamentally a good person, and this is Anakin, and Palpatine's bad.
Yes.
He is going to report him to the Jedi. I just thought like, Anakin, why would you have said that you're going to go report him? Of course, he's going to assume that. But then Palpatine, why are you just like, okay? Like, I kind of thought this would have been an. I know it wouldn't have made a ton of sense because obviously this is exactly what Palpatine wants. But for the sake of not giving away his entire plan, I thought this would have been really interesting. Of like, if there was a fight scene between the two of them, like a short one. But I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't understand. I don't understand why like Anakin didn't just like pull out like his like communicator that he had on him and just call the temples like there's a Sith here, I need backup, and just like brought in like a bunch of Jedi or like clones or something. It's like I'll arrest this guy, he is a Sith, and then like Palpatine kind of like backed in the corner. It's like, oh,
That
you
would
got
have been interesting if
clones.
if he, yeah,
But I can't pull Order
that
66
would have been
yet.
interesting if they did it that way. Of Anakin,
Ooh.
basically, there is some kind of fight scene, and maybe Palpatine escapes. You still could have had the Jedi all arrive, and you still could have had that same outcome that's going to happen in a couple of scenes, but it would have made
Yeah, like
more
2 seconds.
sense for Palpatine to fight back a little bit because I think it's just he is just so manipulative and at this point so powerful. He knows exactly how it's going to play out, and I think it just seemed a little unrealistic that he would just sit back. And of course, he's going to expect Anakin to arrest him, but like to not put up any sort of fight just seemed really weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I also think it that they also kind of leave like a subtle clue that like Palpatine is a Sith Lord, even though the hints that he was dropping should have been obvious enough. That there's some artwork on the wall behind him during that scene that it's like depicting a battle between the Jedi and ancient Sith from like dated back to like the Old Republic, and it's such like a subtle thing that like most people don't even notice it. Did you ever pick up on that, Ben? The like the kind of like the bronze
No,
kind of
but
mural kind of like on the in the background in the hallway connecting like his office to like the his like his separate office. He's got like two offices in this room.
yeah.
Where
Well, I do know the like big vase urn things that are outside of
yes,
Palpatine's office. Those are rumored. One of them's rumored to
huh.
hold the remains of
I
Plagueis.
do remember hearing about that. Yeah, he's got like some like ancient Sith like urns in his office as well. I also heard a rumor that like it's like instead of Darth Plagueis, it was he had like the remains of not Darth Bane, but he had like some like ancient Sith Lord remains or like an artifact from them. I want to say like Darth
So, yeah.
like Malgus or something.
So, anyway,
Yeah.
Anakin
So
goes to the
So
council.
anyway, he reports his finding to like Mace Windu is like it's like a Sith
And
Lord.
yeah.
And they go to attempt to arrest him. It's like 4 Jedi Masters, like 7 like the best of the best. Immediately 3 of
I
them
know, it's
like within like 2 seconds of the fight starting. So it's just Mace Windu and Palpatine's hilarious
and where the line of
faces.
you'll be
And
tried in the Senate. He's like, I am the Senate, and then we get our fight scene.
I am the Senate.
So this next scene, so Mace Windu tells Anakin to go wait in the council room for him, and he's just sitting there and looking out the window, and Padme, I guess, is also looking out the window. Are we supposed to? Is she just looking because she knows he's probably over there, or are we supposed to infer that like because she is carrying, assumingly carrying I mean, she is, but assumingly carrying force sensitive kids, that maybe she's a little force sensitive right now or something, and that she's
Well, I don't know how
fair.
I don't know
Fair
how
enough.
forced pregnancies work, so I don't know if like just inherent like force abilities show up to the mother when she's pregnant with like a force sensitive child. I don't know if that's how that works. Um
That's I mean,
that is
I don't know.
something
It's
I
a
should look
theory. I don't know.
into. But that is a very interesting theory. I've never really thought of or considered that.
There's some sort of a connection.
I never made the connection. Is that a thing in any form of like legends, Ben?
I think it's something that's only ever applied.
I
don't think it's ever. I'm sure there's some book somewhere that no one's ever heard of that.
Anyway,
goes
Anakin,
into detail on it,
probably.
Like he starts like he has like a tear fall from his eye. Kind of, I feel like it's kind of supposed to be like he knows that like he's going to do everything to protect Padme or whatever. But I think what I found weird was like he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do yet. He knows. Okay, he knows he's going to go and help arrest Palpatine, but he still doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. And then when he arrives, Mace Windu is about to.
Hold on. It's also extremely tragic because prior to like Mace Windu leaving, it's like if what you told me is true, then you will gain my trust. Wait in the council chambers for our return. And the theory is that Mace Windu told him to wait in the council chamber was because he was going to make him a master when he came back.
Oh,
the one thing that Anakin wanted, he was going to make him a master because, like, well, I trust you. You helped us bring down like our mortal enemy of the Sith, and you helped us bring an end to this war that has gone on for way too long. You're a master now, and that's like the main theory. That it's like, oh my god, just a knife in the heart right there.
Well, that also would have been at least proven to the Jedi that Anakin could finally trust the Jedi over his
this is when
outside of the Jedi.
You know, it does. Palpatine is making a very convincing argument that the Jedi are going to take over, and it does really look as bad as it looks because Anakin walks in, Mace Windu is about to kill Palpatine. He's too dangerous to be alive, even though that's not the Jedi way, and no, he needs to have a trial. And then of course Palpatine's like, I can help save the one you love. And really quick, there was a podcast I was listening to where they were talking about this scene and how one of them didn't think we needed a reason to see why the Emperor looks so old and gross, which is like, because he's using his powers and Mace Windu's like reflecting it or bouncing it back off of his lightsaber, and that it's like his powers and it's like, I don't know, I kind of didn't think much of it. But what do you guys think?
Well, I think it was just like, I guess Palpatine was just really kind of like hoping this is like the final thing that would try to convince him. Is like, no, like I have no way to actually defend myself. They're using my own powers against me. It's like I have the powers to save the one you love. It's just like showing that like there's nothing that he can do to save himself, even though he can definitely save himself.
And Anakin cuts off Mace Windu's hand and then arm and then Palpatine just does the rest and gets him thrown out the window.
He just yeets him out the window and yells unlimited power and just and
I think
it was a whole thing.
And
after Palpatine yeets him out the window, we kind of get the a very dark turn for the rest of the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, I think that's a good stopping point now.
All right. Yeah.
I just kind of want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay.
All right.
Wait. So
Tune in
Okay.
for part 2, folks.
so yeah, let's kind of stop right here because obviously, I mean, there's so much to talk about. So yeah, like if you've been listening, we've been doing 2 parts for these episodes just because there's so much to discuss. So yeah, please listen to our next one, and we're gonna keep on going because yeah, things aren't looking good for anybody right now.
Things are gonna heat up real fast.
Oh yeah.
All right, bye, folks.